Today I wanted to make a video about chainmail, specifically about more about wearing it and a little bit about making it. I have made a couple of pieces of chainmail. This, which I've shown a couple of times before. Then recently I've made a more fitted kind of mail, and then small pieces as shoulder arm. I'll show that later. But first, a few observations about wearing mail. This is a hauberk. It's not really super fitted. It's made out of single size rings, so there's no variation in size like there should be in the armpits and the like. But it's pretty good. But the thing about wearing this is that I'm wearing beneath this a stack of old shirt, so this is like armor padding. It's not sewn together like a gambeson, but it's still performing the same function. This is very good actually, except when I start doing this. So if I'm starting to do circular motions in my fencing, it will move around a lot, and that's a problem. But this is not really a problem. So holding a sword, let's say this, let's say a shield, this isn't really a problem. So that's not really a problem. But, as I mentioned, circular motions are. So what can be done to counter that? Because circular motions using the hip are very useful in fencing. Well, you could try putting on a belt to tie this whole thing down a little bit more. And that does help a little bit, but that instead causes this problem, where it wants to rise up. And it'll, with time, as you wear this belt, let's say 15 minutes or something, it will tend to cause this to happen, where it bunches up on the belly. And the problem there is that it removes the protection of the legs, so it kind of bunches up, and the protective value is lowered because it covers less area. But otherwise, this is quite good. Back a little bit more and tighten. So this is pretty good. This isn't a problem. There's a little bit of that previously, but not nearly as much. So this is pretty comfortable. Another way of keeping that movement of the mail in check would be to wear some kind of surcoat or a jacket. I don't have a surcoat, but I've noticed this doing the same thing. And this is a light gambeson, so I would call it an agaton perhaps. And I've shown it before. Oh, now the shoulders aren't quite right. So by tightening this around my body, it will perform the same function as the belt, but without, oh come on, find owl, there's owl. By tightening the mail to the body, this is performing the same function as the belt and keeping it nice and compact. Now this is still a problem here, down here, but this could be somehow weighed down as well. So having a longer surcoat, such as in the early Crusades, would help a lot with keeping this from flaring about and keeping you controlled. Of course, as you put on more and more clothing, heat retention and management becomes a problem. Now, the interesting thing I've noted is that if you wear a lot of clothing beneath the mail, such as my shirt here, or stack of shirts, it's a bunch of shirts, several shirts, yeah. several shirts. This keeps me pretty warm. So if I'm in a cold climate, I can wear this topmost and have most of the padding beneath. And that would be the most comfortable for me. That's pretty nice. But in reverse, if I'm dealing with a warm climate, I don't actually want too much padding beneath this. Instead, I want it the other way around. I want a thin layer beneath the mail and something on top of the mail itself, like a jacket or a thin surcoat, because the metal against my skin will actually absorb a lot of that heat and then radiate it outward. So that would help with heat management in a hot climate. So in a cold climate, you wear the mail away from your skin with as many paddings between. And in a hot climate, you would wear the mail as close to your skin as possible, and then have something else on top of that, so it doesn't take heat from the sunlight. Mail is very versatile. It's very versatile. Another thing I've experimented and found very useful is using a sash. So I usually put it on this side. This is just a scarf I bought and turned really quick into something interesting. So having something like this around your torso changes the way the belt interacts with the nail. Because it's now much wider, the bunching up doesn't happen as much. Meaning that like this, the whole belt and whole nail will want to move up. So you're getting the benefits of not having as much movement like this, still a lot because it is hanging alone, but not as much as just hanging on its own, without the bunching up around the waist, because this is now wider. So this is actually quite good, keeping my mobility fairly high and minimizing the issues from the movement of the freely hanging mail. Another way of doing that, if you don't want to have a weird sash, is just a very wide belt. Oh, come on. Get off me. So, a very wide belt will also do the trick. As long as, rather than bunching up, the whole thing will move up on the whole thing will move up as a package, then it will function that way. Oh, this is off center. It looks a little bit like weird. So yeah, this is pretty good as well. Now, as whole mail armor fell out of favor with the development of hard plates, it became more practical to make customized small pieces around, let's say, the shoulder and armpit and the groin. And to replicate some of that, I tried making also some more well-fitted mail. This is rather crude. It's just a big shirt. So it doesn't really fit me in any dimension. It's just sort of big. It's like a skirt. So it hangs off in all ways and it's kind of all over the place. So it's not the most comfortable thing. It's not bad, but it's not the most comfortable thing. So you have to deal with all that. So instead, you could create something like this, a more fitted, customized piece of armor. This is just a vest. I wanted to make something like an underlayer of armor to wear beneath something else. And it's just tied up. So this can be worn beneath pretty much anything, or on top of anything, depending on how much you want to handle how you want to handle heat. So this is a lot less flexible, but it's completely fitted to me. So it doesn't need that extra give. So there's less extra mass, and the amount of protections it offers is more optimized. It's more like a hard, rigid plate, which has less metal than a hauberk, which has a lot of extra mass and extra rings because you have to be able to get it on. Another development would be these, you can see them, called plated mail. They offer a lot of rigidity and protection, but because they're so much bigger than rings, they add mass as well, and they're a bit of a pain to make and put in place. I bought for these just, I don't know what it's called, Beltinol. It's this sort of band of metal. I think I have it stuck here somewhere. Yeah, here. So this is used in construction to tie down stuff like piles of wood. So I just cut pieces. This is, I think, less than a millimeter thick, but it's pretty good stuff anyway. It's the same kind of zinced steel as this, so it matches. And you have to get the right kind of width, thickness, so it's worthwhile to use, and then enough holes that you can actually put the rings in there. This is a little bit of a annoying match, so the ring's a little bit off, but it's very durable, so I like it that way. Another thing you can do with that material is plates like these. I haven't really figured out where to put these, but they're, in theory, quite adaptable. I just have to incorporate them left, right into the camera. It's a little bit confusing. But yeah, this could be pretty interesting. Just a little bit of cordage. With this kind of armor, more fitted, it also becomes a lot more easy to wear it with anything else. So with the coat, packaging, it just kind of disappears under there. You don't really notice it. And with this, even though I'm wearing two shirts, or actually it's 1, 2, 3, 4 shirts beneath here, it's not too hot, even though I'm wearing a padded jacket on top, because this takes a fair bit of the heat away from me. And if I had fewer shirts and was closer to my skin, it would work even better. So yeah, this is pretty good. I'm thinking about removing these. These are kind of a waste. Maybe replace them with, where did I put those? There it is. I bought these. They're kind of awkward. They don't really fit with anything. They're kind of too long. They're not wide enough. They're just weird. So I thought about just removing these and replacing them like that. The rigid armor. And doing something else with those pieces. I don't know. But so I think this is the most interesting way of wearing mail, because this is very adaptable, very lightweight. It's perhaps not as defensive, protective as a hard plate, but it's still very, very good against most forms of damage. And if you want more protection, you just add more plates. So it gives that rigidity. Let's just put it on top of this one more time. Actually, to show that as well. I don't know about these shirts. These are just annoying at this point. With this many layers. So, this is the most comfortable one on top of just a t-shirt with good ventilation in the armpits. And then let's put this. So. Like so. Very easy to wear, fair bit of protection, very comfortable. and then just tie it up in the front if I want that little protection more. It's a little bit short, but I plan it to match with the belt like this, so it doesn't get too much overlap, keeps mobility, and I actually ran out of rings. I bought several packages of rings to make that, and then I had extra to make this. So yeah, it's quite nice. I like it. And actually, even though I say this is custom fitted, I don't actually mean to say that this is more difficult to make than this big hawk. Because this is just, for that thing you have to make with general measurements. You have a rough shape. So it's, because it's not custom fitted, you can make it for anyone. With this, I had to several times correct the measurements. I started with the back. I just started making a square. And then I started making the shoulder overlap, and then here under the arm. And then I started expanding on that, downward and inward like this, to get the shape. But it wasn't a perfect square like so, as I expected. I had to remove material here to bring it sort of closer in, so it wasn't flaring as much outward there. So I could remove extra material. And then down here, same thing. See what this thing here does, the fake leather, it adds a level of rigidity to the mail. See, normally when you have this kind of hauberk or piece of mail, it just bunches up in weird ways. You don't really see what this thing is. It's a pile of rings. You can't really tell what the hell is going on here. So when you have, for example, a piece like these look like nothing until you sew this liner on, which spreads it out and makes it more useful in small amounts. So similarly, in this vest form, it gives you that completely spread out form that you want for a more custom fitted piece. So yeah, this thing was pretty easy to make. I think if I have enough material, I might add more plates to the front here as well. So I get some of that rigidity from the back to the front as well. And maybe leave the shoulders alone, so I have that proper range of motion. But yeah, very interesting project. I recommend you try it yourself. Maybe start out with something small like these sleeves first, or make a standard. I think that's going to be my next project. If I remove these, I'm going to put them together, sew them to a backing, and then make some sort of standard or gorget or something to protect the neck. Because right now, it's just completely open. But yeah, why?